What's cracking, guys? Bruce Matson, senior staff writer from DynastyLeagueFootball.com, and I'm here to talk about some DEVY players, some college football prospects that can help you out for your DEVY leagues or even your Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues in the future. We are getting to the end of the college football season, the NFL season as well, and soon everyone's going to be plugged into those rookie drafts. Right now, I'm going to be going over some of the top performances from last week's slate of games, while also going over some of the top college football players and going over their long-term player value for both Dynasty and DEVY fantasy football. And we're going to be doing that right now. The first thing I want to cover is the quarterback position, and the big news for this week is Spencer Rattler is entering the transfer portal. Where is he going to go is the main question, and the thing about this is he did not look good this year. He looked bad. He got benched. He got benched more than once. He really got benched the first time for Caleb Williams in that Texas game. Then they gave him another chance, and he fell on his face. Caleb Williams is finishing out the year. He is the de facto starter going forward. Lincoln Riley is gone from Oklahoma now. I highly doubt Spencer Rattler follows him to USC. I think Rattler is going to field all the offers, feel things out, and go to a program that's going to allow him the opportunities to succeed, the opportunities to start right away. Let me know in the comments who you think Spencer Rattler's going to. But right now, for a DEVY fantasy football prospect, I am not interested in him at all. I saw enough from him this year, and if he does take that step forward, returns back to what he was in 2020, then I'll let someone else enjoy that. Right now, it's too volatile. It's too volatile of a situation. If I already have him on one of my rosters, I may just hold him a bit just to see what happens as a speculative asset, but I'm not over the moon with him. I'm not excited. Quarterbacks in college football can be volatile from year to year. Staying on that quarterback train, and I just want to talk about this more in a macro perspective as we're gearing towards that 2022 NFL draft with 2023 in a not-so-distant future. So, obviously, we got some of the top quarterbacks in the 2022 NFL draft, Matt Corral and Sam Howell, Kenny Pickett and company. A lot of quarterbacks here that could be going in the first round, a slew of them, kind of like how we have it every year. However, from my perspective, from how I'm seeing it, it's not a bad class. I just don't think it's very top-heavy, but I feel like if Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud was in this class, we would be much favoring them over the top quarterbacks in the 2022 NFL draft class. Matt Corral, Sam Howell, and everyone else. Matt Corral, though, I think he's my QB1 for right now, and I think he's going to be locked in there throughout draft season, but stay posted to see if that changes. But this speaks volumes towards the talent of Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, because those are two young, up-and-coming quarterbacks. Bryce Young has proven he can spread the rock, he's accurate, and he can move the ball downfield. C.J. Stroud, we've seen him come alive this season, had a slow start, and just started building upon that. Looked good this year. Even in that game against Michigan, the offensive play calling, I'm going to give it this, was a little bit wonky. He still made some stuff happen. He still moved the football. He was still productive. I'm excited to see what he does next season. Let's move on to the running backs we're going to talk about this week. And surprise, surprise, we're talking about Breece Hall again, baby. Running back from Iowa State. He will be in this year's draft. He will be one of the top running backs selected. It's going to be between him and Isaiah Spiller. And when you look at all the other analysts talking about these rookies, they're going to be talking about these two running backs back and forth all season long. Don't forget about Kenneth Walker, too. He had a great year this year. But Breece Hall blew it up this week. 242 yards, 3 touchdowns against Texas Christian. And he is really leaving this season on a strong note to let them scouts know that he's here to play some ball, and he is going to be worth it for the NFL. And I liked him coming out of high school. He's very physical. He had a lot of good things on his tape. I liked how they showed him blocking on his high school tape because he was laying dudes out. And you see that on the point of contact too here on his college highlights as well, because he delivers the boom, he drops the shoulders, and he's very productive. He has quietly had over 1,400 yards and 20 touchdowns on the ground this season. He has just been phenomenal. He's been productive, and I feel like the community, the big media, has been sleeping on him a little bit because he's been very good this year. We can't talk about running backs today without talking about Michigan's Hassan Haskins. And he blew up against Ohio State. If you're going to have a blow-up game in your career, the game to do it would be against Ohio State. To have that film, to have that game in the back of scouts' minds when they're going over your tape, when they're talking about you in the war room, is nothing but positive. Against the Buckeyes, he rushed for 169 yards and 5 touchdowns, 5 of them. And he's having a quiet year, even though it's been huge. Over 1,200 yards rushing, 18 touchdowns. And he's a big boy. He's thick with 3 C's, 6'1", 220 pounds. This dude drives the load at the point of contact. He's going to be the Mack truck at the goal line. Hassan Haskins isn't the most elusive back. He's not the most explosive player. However, he's going to be like that mid-round draft pick, that mid-round selection that we're going to see in rookie drafts this year, because he will be here in the 2022 NFL draft, and a lot of people are going to be talking him up because he does have that size. He had some good performances this year, and I look for him to gain some stock during the draft season when people start going over his pedigree, his metrics, and everything else. He had 4 games this year with 150 yards or more. I like him for what he is. I think he's a good goal line back. I think he can be a between the tackles grinder. I think his upside's limited due to the limited burst, speed, wiggle, and all that stuff. However, when we're talking about price tag, if he's a mid-rounder, late rounder in rookie drafts, then he's all right to dance with this spring. The next running back I want to talk about is Tyler Goodson from Iowa. He should be in this year's draft. He may decide to stay another year depending on what he wants to do, but he's had a good year this year. He rushed for 156 yards and 1 touchdown against Nebraska. He's a smaller guy. I look for him to be a day 3 pick. I look for him to be a trendy late round option in rookie drafts this year if he decides to come out for the NFL draft. However, he's a smaller back. We need him to do well at the combine. I'm a little bit leery on his long speed. His size adjusted speed isn't really there for me. However, draft capital wise, if he comes out for a draft and he becomes a free player and cheap get in rookie drafts, I can't say much about that, but he's not really going to be a top tier back in my rookie rankings. However, he may be able, just due to how this landscape is shaping out, might crack the top 10. Let's jump to wide receivers. I haven't talked about this guy yet on the channel, and I'm talking about Penn State's wide receiver, Jahan Dotson. Big game last week against Michigan State, catching 8 balls for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's had a big year this year, 5 100-yard performances, played well last year. He's a senior. He's 21 years old. However, I had a request to talk about some players last week that I don't like. And I tried to get some negatives on some of the guys going forward in this video. But if there's a wide receiver who is looking to be drafted in the first round that I'm not into, it's Jahan Dotson here at Penn State.
What?
And one of the things is, it took him till his 3rd season at Penn State to break out. His 2nd year, he was outproduced by KJ Hamler and Pat Freiermuth. It is not good when the tight end outproduces you, especially at Penn State, and then you're expecting to be a top-tier asset. He is 21 years old. He'll be a 22-year-old rookie when he sets foot at the NFL level. And Jahan Dotson, he does do some good things on tape. He has some ball skills. He made a great catch last year against Ohio State. He can also make defenses pay with his work after the catch. There are some good things in his profile. He's got some good specs. He's also a 185-pound wide receiver. And the production metrics, it just really isn't there for me. Later breakout age, broke out at age 20 and did not produce until his junior season. I would be more into him if he was just more productive earlier in his career. It's not a knock on him. I feel like he's just going to be overdrafted. There's a chance he could surprise us, do a lot better than expected. However, the rumor and innuendo posted about him online, about him potentially being a first-round asset, might be a little bit too rich for our blood. The next wide receiver I'm really excited about, and we didn't get to see much of him this year. We saw a little bit of him last week. George Pickens. He was out with an ACL, back on the field with Georgia now. We saw clips of him moving around on the field during highlights, shuffling on feet. Very exciting to see after seeing that devastating injury happen to him this spring. It was sad news to hear, but it looks like he's going to be back. Caught one ball last week against Georgia Tech, and that one catch meant 1,000 words, because proves a lot of things. It proves George Pickens is probably going to be there for the postseason play for the Georgia Bulldogs. It proves that George Pickens is getting things right for the NFL Combine, because he wants to prove to those scouts, he wants to prove to NFL teams that he's healthy. He's good to go. He's ready to make plays happen. That's ACL. It's not going to affect him. George Pickens is ready to make plays happen. Be on the lookout for him during the Alabama game. Be on the lookout for him during the college football playoff, because if he starts getting a large share of the snaps, we could be in for some major moments out of this dude. George Pickens, if you're unfamiliar with him, check him out on YouTube. Look at the highlights. Just see how he plays. He's a baller, he's a big kid, and he can make plays happen. I got one tight end I want to talk about today. I've talked about him a few times, but I really want to hammer him home. It's Trey McBride from Colorado, and this guy has been very productive. He has been doing some astronomical numbers right now. He led the Colorado Rams in both rushing and receiving last week. How does that happen? A tight end, 69 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, caught 6 balls, 113 yards. He's a senior. He will be out for the draft. Imagine there's a chance he could be one of the top tight ends selected. He's really building up that pedigree. He owns a 37.12% market share of Colorado State's passing production. That is filthy. That's like top 5, top 8, top 10 in NCAA among all wide receivers and tight ends. He's 18th in the nation with 1,121 receiving yards, and he's 7th in the nation with 90 catches. A tight end with 90 catches. Check out his tape, because this dude can also move in the open field. Of course, he has a 69-yard rushing attempt. He can move when you get him the ball in space. Is he a Kyle Pitts type talent? Probably not. Is he a good tight end with some receiving ability? He's caught 90 balls. Of course he is. There's some upside with him. And I don't see him being considered a first-round pick, so we may get some good value out of him in rookie drafts this year. And he could be a guy that sneaks into our lineups, our rosters, and helps us out a bit. Could be another Travis Kelce type player from Cincinnati, a smaller school. Trey McBride from another school. Usually those good tight ends, those good players from smaller schools that have been productive, sometimes they can sneak into our laps, help us out a little bit on our Dynasty fantasy football teams. But that's what I got for you guys right now today. Let me know if there's any players you're excited about in DEVY, or you're looking to draft in those Dynasty rookie drafts this spring, who you got your eye on, whatever. We're here to accommodate you, and I'll catch you next time.